The phone rang at 3 a.m., its shrill tones slicing through the silence of the night. I rubbed my eyes, groggy and heavy, and reached for it on the nightstand. Her name flashed across the screen. My wife's voice slipped through, soft, calm, almost too gentle for the hour. "Don't worry, I'm at my sister's. Go back to sleep." The words sank into me like a lullaby that should have brought peace, but instead, they stirred something jagged inside my chest. At first, I wanted to believe her. I always did. She had never given me reason not to, or at least I thought so. But as I sat up, blinking into the dim light of the living room lamp that still burned from earlier, my eyes landed on the figure curled up on the couch. A blanket was draped over her, but her face was unmistakable. My wife's sister, right there, sleeping no more than a few feet away. My hand went cold around the phone. My breath caught, shallow, as if the air itself refused to move. If her sister was here, then where was she? The sound of my wife's breathing on the other end of the line suddenly felt sinister. She was lying. So casually, so smoothly, as though the truth meant nothing, as though she had practiced it. A single sentence, and the foundation of years began to splinter. I stared at the couch, stared at the sister who was supposed to be the alibi, and the weight of the realization pressed down hard on my chest. Questions spun inside me like shards of glass. Who was she with? Why lie so easily? Had this been happening longer than I dared to imagine? My fingers trembled as I lowered the phone, the silence on the other end becoming louder than any scream could ever be. I thought back to every night she had come home late, every vague excuse, every time she told me I was overthinking. It all came rushing back, replaying with a new edge, sharper, darker. One lie had cracked the surface, but beneath it lay something far deeper, something I hadn't dared to face. Sleep was impossible now. I could only sit there, eyes fixed on the truth lying across the couch, and the lie echoing in my ear. The contrast was too much, too cruel. And in that moment, a single thought cut through the fog, clear and unforgiving. If she could lie so easily, then what else had she been hiding? I lay awake long after the call ended, staring at the ceiling as if the plaster might give me answers. My mind began to rewind, dragging me through memories I had never questioned before. Those late-night work meetings that always seemed to run hours longer than anyone else's. The sudden girls' trips she claimed were necessary to clear her mind. I remembered how she would pack light but come home exhausted, smelling faintly of something that wasn't hers. Expensive perfume, foreign to our house, lingering long after she walked past me. Missed calls, too. Times when I'd ring her and she wouldn't pick up, only to return the call later with a rehearsed excuse. And then there were the receipts. Restaurant dinners for two, hotel bookings that she insisted were work-related, though her job had never required such stays. At the time, I told myself not to overthink it. I trusted her. I loved her. But now those moments piled up like evidence in a case I couldn't ignore. My chest tightened as I tried to hold on to denial. She would never do this. She's my wife. We've built a life together. She wouldn't throw it all away. The thought almost comforted me. But then the other voice pushed harder, cruel and raw. Then why did she lie? Why was she so calm telling me she was with her sister when her sister was here, under my roof? The tug of war inside me was relentless. Part of me wanted to grab the phone, call her back, and demand the truth. To shout, to rage, to make her feel the same fear she had put in me. But another part of me whispered that rage was reckless. If she was capable of lying so smoothly, then maybe she was capable of hiding even more. I paced the living room quietly, my eyes drifting to her sister asleep on the couch, the unwilling proof of her deception. No, I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. There was power in silence. If she believed I was blind, then she would keep slipping, keep lying, keep revealing pieces she thought were hidden. And I would catch every single one. By the time the first trace of dawn light brushed against the window, I had made up my mind. I sat in the darkness, jaw tight, eyes sharper than they had ever been. If she thinks I'm blind, let her. I'll open my eyes wider than ever. I became a shadow in my own house, silent and deliberate. Every glance, Every word she spoke, I studied. With the patience of someone who already knew the answer but needed the proof, I asked her subtle questions, wrapped in casual tones. How was your sister? Did she finally fix that car problem you mentioned? She smiled, easy and confident, not knowing I already knew her sister hadn't seen her in weeks. I watched her lips move, watched the lies roll off as if they were nothing more than everyday conversation. The phone became her second heartbeat. Always in her hand, always tilted away from me. She laughed softly at messages, typed quickly, then turned the screen black if I walked into the room. At night, it never left her side of the bed, tucked beneath the pillow like a secret she dared me to uncover. Once, when she went to the shower, I reached for it, only to find a new lock code staring back at me. She had changed it without a word. Her sister, unknowingly, became my greatest ally. Over coffee one afternoon, I asked casually when she had last seen my wife. She shrugged. It's been a while, maybe a few weeks. Why? My chest tightened at her words, but I forced a smile, nodding as though it didn't cut through me like glass. The inconsistencies piled up. A night out with friends that none of her friends could confirm. A blouse she wore that smelled faintly of cologne, masculine and sharp, not mine. Bank alerts on my phone for dinners in places we'd never gone together. Every discovery was another knife, stabbing deeper, but I bled in silence. I couldn't show my hand. Not yet. Then came the moment that ripped away the last thread of doubt. She told me she was staying late at work. I sat in the dark, staring at the clock, waiting for her return. Hours passed. Finally, I checked the shared GPS locator she'd forgotten we once set up during a road trip. My pulse hammered as the map lit up. Not at her office. Not even near it. Her location blinked steady from a hotel downtown. I stared at the screen, my throat dry, my hands trembling. The lie was no longer hidden in shadows or suspicions. It was right there, undeniable, glowing in blue on my phone. She wasn't at work. She wasn't at her sister's. She was somewhere else entirely. And now I knew exactly where. The night I decided to follow her, my body thrummed with an electricity I couldn't quiet. My palms were slick against the steering wheel, my heartbeat pounding so violently it felt like the car itself could hear it. She had told me she was working late again, but the GPS on my phone betrayed her before she even left the driveway. I already knew where she was going. Still, I needed to see it with my own eyes. I parked a safe distance from the hotel, the kind of place that tried too hard to look respectable, but reeked of secrets in every shadow. Midnight wrapped the lot in silence, broken only by the hum of passing traffic in the distance. I waited, every nerve straining. Then I saw her car pull in. My chest tightened so hard I thought my ribs might shatter. She stepped out, her hair catching the faint glow of the streetlight. She looked different, lighter, like the weight she carried at home didn't exist here. And then I saw him. A man emerged from the shadows near the entrance, his figure tall and confident. I couldn't make out his face, but I didn't need to. The way she moved toward him told me everything. She smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. He touched her arm and she leaned into it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Intimacy radiated between them, casual, practiced. My stomach turned. Heartbreak tore through me like glass shards grinding against bone. Humiliation clung to my skin like fire. Fury, raw, primal fury, burned behind my eyes. All those nights, all those lies. This is what they led to. This is who she became when she thought I wasn't watching. For one blinding moment, I wanted to storm in, to drag her out, to scream, to destroy the illusion she'd so carefully built. But I froze, my fists clenched so tightly, my knuckles ached. Storming in would satisfy my rage, but it wouldn't give me justice. Justice required patience. Justice required silence now and precision later. I sank lower in my seat, breath ragged, forcing myself to absorb the pain like poison I would one day turn back on her. My hands shook, but my mind sharpened. If she thought she had outplayed me, she was wrong. Through clenched teeth, I whispered into the dark car, a promise only I could hear. You've already betrayed me. Now watch me betray your trust in return. The morning after I watched her in that hotel parking lot, I woke with a heaviness in my chest that quickly hardened into resolve. The heartbreak was still there, raw and aching, but beneath it was something sharper: purpose. I would not be the man she fooled in the dark. I would not be the fool who begged for scraps of honesty. If she wanted betrayal, she would learn what betrayal looked like when it came from me. The first step was silence. I smiled when she walked through the door, pretended to be tired, kissed her cheek with a calmness that must have unsettled her. She didn't know I'd already begun my counterattack. I met with a lawyer the very next day. He listened carefully as I laid out the truth, showing him the screenshots of her GPS location, the receipts, the patterns of her lies. His advice was direct and brutal. Get my finances in order, secure everything I could before she drained it from under me. If children had been in the picture, I knew I'd be fighting for custody as well, but even without them, the war was real. I moved quickly. Accounts she once had access to suddenly shifted, passwords were changed, money relocated, assets quietly protected. Every login, every email, I secured it all behind walls she couldn't break. Bank records were copied and filed away, documenting every dollar she had frivolously spent while weaving her lies. At night, while she texted under the covers and giggled into her pillow, I sat in the next room, eyes fixed on my laptop, building a fortress she didn't even realize was rising around her. She thought she was clever, hiding her world behind locked screens. But I was dismantling the life she thought she controlled, brick by brick. Still, the reflection gnawed at me. Betrayal is agony enough, but being treated like a fool, that was unbearable. I replayed her calm voice on the phone, her casual lies, her easy laughter with someone who wasn't me. I thought about the nights I trusted her while she built her escape with someone else. She had mocked my loyalty with every false word, and now it was my turn. This wasn't just about leaving her. Leaving would have been easy. No, this was about ensuring when I stepped away, she would fall, powerless, stripped of the ground she thought she stood on. I closed the folder of documents, leaned back in my chair, and let the satisfaction ripple through me like a storm on the horizon. She had no idea what was coming, and with a cold certainty, I whispered to myself, she thought I was her safety net. She's about to find out I was her entire ground to stand on. The night I chose to confront her, the house was quiet enough to hear the tick of the clock on the wall. I sat in the living room, lights dimmed, waiting. My heart should have been racing, but instead it beat slow, steady, as if it had accepted the war was already won. Around me were the folders, the phone records, the printed receipts, all the ghosts of her lies, now weaponized into truth. The door opened just past midnight. She walked in, humming softly, her keys jingling in her hand. There was a smile on her face, that same rehearsed innocence she always carried home from her late nights. She kicked off her shoes, glanced at me on the couch, and forced a yawn. "You're still up?" she asked, her voice sweet but practiced. I didn't answer. I just gestured to the table in front of me. One by one, I laid the evidence bare. The phone call at 3 a.m., the receipts from dinners she never shared with me, the GPS ping that placed her car in a hotel lot while she claimed to be working. Her smile faltered with each paper I slid across the table until her color drained, her mask peeling away in the silence. At first she tried to laugh it off, dismiss it as coincidence, as misunderstanding. "You're being paranoid," she whispered, though her voice shook. When that failed, the tears came, sudden and theatrical, her hands clutching at her face as she sobbed about how lonely she had been. I sat there unmoved, the tears sliding past me like water against stone. Then came the anger, sharp, defensive, ugly. She slammed her hand on the table, demanded to know why I was spying on her, as if my betrayal was greater than hers. Through it all, I stayed calm. I didn't raise my voice, didn't give her the chaos she wanted to hide in. I let the silence do what it always does, strip away the lies until nothing remains but truth. She finally broke, sinking into the chair across from me, face pale, eyes darting everywhere but mine. The weight of it all pressed down on her, and she knew. She had been caught. I leaned forward, my voice low, controlled, each word deliberate. You didn't just cheat on me. You cheated yourself out of the life we built. I didn't keep her secrets any longer. They weren't mine to protect, and the weight of her betrayal was never going to be buried in silence. The truth needed light, and I was ready to set it free. So when her family gathered for a small dinner the following weekend, I brought more than just my polite smile. I brought the truth. She walked in beside me, laughing too loudly, trying to keep up the mask. Her hand brushed mine, a silent plea for normalcy, for me to keep playing the fool. But I wasn't her shield anymore. I let her sit, let the chatter fill the room, before I placed the folder on the table with a calmness that made everyone's eyes turn. The room fell silent as I spoke, my words measured but unflinching. I recounted the 3 a.m. phone call, how she swore she was at her sister's. And then I turned to the very sister sitting across the table. Tell them, I said quietly. Her sister hesitated only a moment before nodding, her voice steady. She wasn't with me. She hasn't been for weeks. The shift in the room was seismic. Gasps, whispers, disbelief painted across faces that had once adored her. I laid out the receipts, the hotel locations, the late-night patterns that told a story no excuses could erase. She sat frozen, her face pale, her lips parting, but no sound coming out. She had nowhere to run. When she finally tried, the words tumbled weakly. She blamed stress, loneliness, claimed she had made a mistake. But her lover, he was already gone, vanished the moment the affair stopped being secret and became messy reality. And her family, the people who once believed her every word, looked at her with a mixture of shock and shame. It was poetic justice in its purest form. The lies she thought she controlled unraveled in front of everyone she counted on. The double life she had built crumbled in a single evening, brick by brick, falling around her until nothing remained but the hollow echo of her choices. I watched her shrink under the weight of it, her eyes darting desperately for someone to defend her, someone to soften the truth. But no one did. Not even her sister. Especially not her sister. In that moment I felt no rage, no heartbreak, only clarity. She had wanted freedom, had craved it so badly she risked everything to chase it in the arms of another man. And now she had it. She wanted freedom in the arms of another man, I thought as I stood to leave. Now she's free, but completely alone. In the weeks that followed, I chose silence over vengeance, peace over chaos. My world had cracked open, but instead of falling into the void, I stepped carefully across it and found solid ground on the other side. Betrayal had broken my heart, yes, but it did not break my life. I would not allow it. I moved with quiet dignity. I disentangled myself from her lies, her excuses, her hollow apologies. I reclaimed my name on every document, every account, every corner of my world she had once touched with deception. The weight of her absence turned into air, light and breathable, as though I'd been suffocating for years without realizing it. Each day, I grew stronger. My mind sharpened, my spirit steadied. I no longer lived in the shadows of her phone calls, her half-truths, her shifting alibis. I lived for myself again, wiser now, no longer chained to someone else's dishonesty. Freedom didn't roar, it whispered, calm and steady, and I welcomed it. Her life, however, unraveled with painful precision. Friends who once laughed with her now looked at her with pity, some with disgust. The family that once adored her kept their distance, their disappointment too heavy to hide. And her sister, the one she had tried to use as a shield, wouldn't even answer her calls. The woman who once thought she could juggle lies with ease now carried regret like a permanent scar, visible in every glance, every silence that followed her. I never gloated, never flaunted my escape. The sweetest revenge was simply living free, while she remained trapped in the ruins she had created. I didn't need her downfall, I had my peace. And peace, I realized, was the one thing she could never steal from me. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the echo of that phone call. Her soft voice at 3 a.m. Don't worry, I'm at my sister's. Go back to sleep. But I don't ache anymore. Instead, I remember how the lie felt in that moment, how it shattered everything. And then I remember the dawn that followed.